Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dan's Veggie Patch. In this episode, we'll take a look at things I'm doing to handle water. I also get a little bit of good luck, unfortunately at the expense of a neighbor. And lastly, am I making brownies? Let's take a look. This week I guess I'll start with water. We haven't had any real rain to speak of for a couple of weeks. Neighbor's little pond down there is getting low. The river in town, we can tell, is getting low. And we're on a well here. So just to make sure that, take some common sense steps, I guess, just to make sure that everything's going to be okay there. I'm going to take a trip around and show some of the things I'm doing in the garden to try and conserve water so I don't waste it. Let's take a look and see what I'm kind of doing as far as using as little water as I have to. One of the things I'm doing is building up compost dams around some of my plants. Here I'm working on the broccolis. Now what I'm doing is just pushing up the compost from areas where I have no plants to around the plants, so that when I do water, there's no runoff into the paths or away from the plants where it won't soak down into the roots. Note that I'm not pulling compost away from the plant to make the dam, and I want to make the dam wide enough around the plant to hold a good amount of water. Now I've also done this for cabbage and cauliflower, tomatoes, a couple other plants. Mainly where the planting rows I've made, they end up being higher than the adjacent paths, so the runoff is really lessened. Now here you see me getting collected water out of one of my pickle barrels. This is one area where I'm going to look to improve by getting the gutters onto the back of the compost station roof. That'll help me collect a whole lot more water, so I don't have to worry about getting it from the well. Now note also that I'm using a water can without a rose, so I can really precisely target where I'm putting the water in the garden. I did put spigots on the bottoms of these many years ago. They're still there. So eventually, when I put the guttering up, I'll raise these up so I can actually draw from the bottom without having to use the old string trick. And when I'm watering, I'm not watering every day, every other day, every third day. I'm watering when the plants need it. And when I'm watering deeply and, of course, infrequently, only as often as they need it. For example, the squash back there, you can kind of see them. I have watered those maybe once in a couple of weeks because they're doing so well. I keep a real close eye on the smaller plants and the lettuces, but I'm not watering them on any kind of schedule, just when they tell me they need water. So that's another way that I'm trying to really conserve and use water only when I really need it. What you really want to do is have those roots chase that water down, so you water them really deep and not water them for a good while, and let those roots just go down into the soil following that water. So get them really deep, and that'll really set them up to survive well. Because if you water these plants daily, the roots aren't going to go deep because the water is always available right on the surface. And so if they go a few days without, then they're in trouble. So we want to really water deep and let the roots chase that water. And as far as water conservation in general, I guess, I'm putting compost around some of these other plants at the barn. Keep the roots cool, keep the water, any water from evaporating. And, we've come to be using this compost as a kind of a magic elixir now, to let stuff grow nice and dark green. And, of course, any mulch will help keep the roots cool and conserve water in the soil. And so might as well go for a 2-for-1 and put compost on as mulch to get the added benefit of the soil nutrients in the compost. Well, had a bit of good luck for us today. My friend who owns the hayfield next door was putting up his hay, and unfortunately a couple of bales broke on him, and so he asked if we needed it for anything. And I thought, well, that's instant brown for the compost heaps, so I am collecting several pickup loads of loose hay that I can use for brown. And so now I have plenty of brown material to work with for my compost station feeding the monster. Quick update on my seeding experiment. Remember I'd gathered the rest of these seeding trays and cut out the bottoms of them to see if I could get a little better use out of them. And if you can see, I'll just pop them up and they pop right out now. So that seems to have worked as long as I'm kind of careful with using the thing. So I'll be able to get a little more use out of it. I saw these in a habitat store a month or two ago, and I got them for I think $3 a piece. And there's 72 peat pellets in it, so I thought, what the heck, I'll try and start my second lettuces in them, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to show you how this works. It starts with these little flat peat pellets. See, not like that. And this would be neat if you have, say, young children or grandchildren. You might get an interest in them out of this by having them watch what happens here. So what you're supposed to do is you got a tray full of those, and we're going to put an inch or an inch and a half of water, warm water, on top of these and see what happens. So let's back out a bit and get the water on there. And they're working on it, but you can kind of see them growing right now. You're just soaking in that water. Let them soak up a little bit more. Renee said, wouldn't they be nice if these were instant brownies instead? You're supposed to pour off any excess water if there is any. And you just take them when they're done and just pop open the tops a little bit because there's kind of a thin mesh on them. Move some of the move some of the peat around so you can put the individual seeds in each one, and then cover them up just a bit when you're done. And you've got a little mini greenhouse. It comes with the plastic top as well, so you can keep the moisture, the humidity in. But kind of a neat little way to do it. So I'm going to finish planting my lettuces in this. That's going to wrap it up from the veggie patch for this time. I'm going to go way out on a limb and say that I'm not going to have to worry about water for a while. Nope. So until next time, happy gardening, stay dry. See you then. Of course, a couple days after I recorded the water conservation stuff, a nice gusty storm blew through with about a half an inch of rain, but it did knock over some of my Simpson lettuce plants. And it did a little bit of work to a couple of my tomatoes. Guess who's back today? It's Rent-A-Dog. I'm actually feeling religious today, so I've got my holy shirt on. I'm not watering every day or every other day. I'm watering when the plants need it. Wait,